Now, I know that One Piece chapter 1086 is right around the corner, but that will not stop me, Monsieur Kingu of Lightning.
I'm not leaving.
From getting to the official chapter review of One Piece chapter 1085. Because, of course, the IMU greatness, the Gorosei activating. King Cobra officially dead. Well, he already was, but now seeing that play out. There are things that I think will be very important that I'm willing to bet that Cats did miss from this chapter that ties in the previous chapters of One Piece. Absolutely. So Oda continues the greatness. However, that comes to a stop after the next chapter. At least I'm hoping next chapter is going to be a good chapter, 1086, because after that chapter, he's going to be going officially on a 1 month break. That's correct. If you don't know, now you know. And you saw in the title, Oda is going on a 1 month break. Now, this was apparently initially leaked by the leakers who do the pre-scan content. And apparently in the magazine, they mention how Oda's taking a 1 month break. Arter on his Twitter page did post about that, and then during the day I retweeted that. Now, the reason why he was on the break, we weren't too sure, but it was just revealed a few hours ago from this video's recording by the Ichiro Oda official staff Twitter account that Oda is taking a 1 month break because of eye surgery. And the next chapter will not officially drop until next month, July the 18th in Japan. So basically it's a 1 plus a few weeks break for One Piece. And it makes sense because Oda's going for eye surgery, and Oda want to have the time to, let's say, recover from that mentally, physically, obviously. Take some time off to be with family and friends, maybe work on the story a bit here or there, make sure that everything is planned out appropriately for the final saga of One Piece, things of that nature. Of course, when it comes to eye surgery for Oda, wish him the best, duh, but you can't help but wonder, is eye surgery a result of, let's say, prior health issues, complications Oda's had? Like, for example, Oda taking like only 4 hours a day for sleep and rest. Allegedly has even gout-related issues and is not on top of his body like he should be. Now, I am not one to talk, clearly, but Oda, being the person that he is of such high stature, you can't but worry about, his health conditions. The older you get, you do have to be more on top of your health. And in this industry, the anime manga industry, we all know it's pretty grueling. As of late, we've seen the author of Black Clover, Tabata, go on like a month plus break because of, let's say, health issues. Recently, the main artist for One Punch Man, Murata, is taking a break because of declining health. This has been like a consistent thing for decades, and how grueling the industry can be on the authors and artists' bodies. Of course, as a big Hunter x Hunter fan, when it comes to health problems, there's no better example than Togashi Yoshihiro. I guess only the people that are close to Oda would truly know the real situation. But if you don't know, now you know. Oda's taking a 1 month break, and they do have like a meme in the announcement, like Frankie firing laser eyes. And honestly, after Oda's eye surgery, I can see Frankie on Egghead Island, after Egghead Island, getting upgrades, so he's actually firing laser eye beams like Gil Tesoro in the film Gold movie. Yeah, that I can definitely see that happening on a meme play. So if you didn't know before, now you know, and it's time for the official chapter review for 1085. The Zoro piece 1062 reaction should be officially out on the Kingu-san YouTube channel as of this video's upload. If you don't know, now you know. All of those reactions are first done on my Patreon, links in the box below. As per usual, we're gonna break this down step by step when it comes to chapter review, the pace and chapter structure. Then we're gonna have the character components of the chapter, and then finally the story progression components for this chapter. So let's get right into it. So number one, the pace and structure. This chapter has a total of 4 parts to it. You have number one, the empty throne with IMU and the 5 elders, Nefertari Cobra, then later Sabo. This is the vast majority of the chapter, with minor cuts to, let's say, an adjacent room nearby with Wapo, and that's really it. After that, we have the cut to the round table council room inside of Pangaea Castle with the other country monarchs. Then we have a small cut to the mingling courtyard in the Pangaea Castle with Shirhoshi and company. Then the last part, number 4, is going to be inside of a guest room inside of Pangaea Castle with Vivian CP0 agents. But then we cut to minor flashbacks and we shift elsewhere inside of the castle with Wapo shenanigans. So that is when it comes to the pace and chapter structure for this chapter. Overall, very good pacing. The main meat of the chapter is clear, and the beginning carries this chapter for sure. So in my book, the pace is a clear, fat thumbs up. Now next we have the story progression components for this chapter. We're gonna save you know who for last. And first and foremost, we have the 5 elders, the Gorosei. Now, Gandhi has a sword, which is known, obviously. But apparently the other elders are packing some heat. They're packing some firepower, Memphis Grizzly style. They're ready to initiate gang warfare at a moment's notice. But of course, that's not the biggest thing for the elders, obviously. It's just whatever, okay? However, all the elders can transform into something. It's hard to tell what exactly that something is, but there are two, I'd argue, there are 2 main opinions. Number 1, they are all Zoans. 2 of them, the Gandhi and the pointy beard one, I believe it's him, they seem to have smoke rings on their shoulders when they go into their quote Zoan transformations, in the same vein as Luffy, Yamato, and the awakened Rob Lucci. The others also appear to have animalistic features, and while Cobra stands up to stall the elders and Imu, while he's talking, there is a distinct growl, a grrr, that cuts off his actual text bubbles. So everyone is silhouetted, but in the future, their true forms will be to reveal. And also, it is impressive on their part to take a fire fist from Sabo. They do scream in pain with that, "Rah!" However, they likely recover very quickly from that because of their transformations, which will also be more indicative of a Zoan transformation. However, there is the second option, which is not Zoans, but more so they are shadow entities like potentially IMU itself. They are not as active in the chapter as IMU unless you consider the idea of the quote arrow that did damage to Sabo and King Cobra came from one of them, one of the elders, and not IMU. And that could be possible if the elders got their powers directly from IMU itself, and they choose these unique shapes to best suit them. And in a general sense, they could still be silhouettes, but they could still also have gotten their powers, their unique powers, from IMU itself. So those in my book are the 2 main options as to what the Gorosei could be when it comes to transformation. And then lastly, one of them, likely Gandhi, senses Wapo's presence from behind a wall, which of course does show signs of the observation haki. So that is character part number 1, the Gorosei, the 5 elders. Number 2, our good old boy Sabo. Sabo does show a new different move called the Rook Check. It's a stream of fire that travels upwards at the target with high precision, and then this stream of fire does hug the ground very closely until it hits said target. That's number 1. Number 2, keep this in mind here. Sabo is bloodthirsty enough to try and immediately kill all the elders and IMU in one go and get it all said and done with, which could be indicative of Sabo's mentality moving forward, where if push comes to shove, he will be willing to get the job done and bury people. That is Sabo's character. And then finally, last character, IMU. IMU, aka M, aka Mu, aka Umi, name of the round. A lot of AKAs here. Now, IMU speaks in the manner of a person from an older era, using terms like thee and thou, indicating that they come from that timeline, A. B, they've been alive for a very long time, or C, they're just LARPing. So you can pick which one you think is best. IMU also speaks in a third person at times, referring to itself as Mu, M-U. That name has several meanings, like not have, void, nothing. We'll tackle these things for like a discussion in the future. So in some ways, this break is a blessing in disguise. In some ways it is. Now, Cobra mentions the first 20 rulers that made the world government, and then IMU cuts him off, stating he will not answer. Or I guess they will not answer, implying that IMU was one of the 20 rulers that helped establish the world government, or at least had a direct relation to one of the 20 rulers. This confirms in an indirect way that IMU has an extremely long life, likely the result of the what? Immortality surgery of the OP no Mi. We can't say it's fully confirmed, but it's really close to being confirmed. Of course, first mentioned by Don Quixote do Flamingo in chapter 761. And then in that same chapter, Dofi mentions the personality switching surgery along with the quote treasure of the Holy Land. He knew that treasure, but they couldn't kill him, and that's why they acquiesced to Doflamingo for various things that he needs. At least that's how things used to be. Of course, now he's in prison, at least temporarily. We'll have to see in the future. But it might be the case that IMU itself is the thing that Doflamingo was talking about back then. And I do recall one of my Twitch Tier 3 cats bringing up about the idea of the personality switching surgery and the idea of Dofi trying to switch his ego with IMU's ego. He would be the ruler of the world. At the time, I was considering that because in my mind, well, IMU must have strong haki, and haki we know can counter different abilities. But that's me assuming that IMU does have strong haki, which might not be the case. Now moving on, IMU is very decisive and conclusive, at least in the matters concerning the Dia. It does not hesitate to kill King Cobra the moment he reveals Lily's full name. Rocinante, aka Corazon, in chapter 764, mentions the law that the quote people of the D end quote were the enemies of the gods, and if IMU is the top god, then anyone related to their enemy will be terminated. But we continue. IMU has the power to change its form. First, it has a black arrow that comes out of nowhere and pierces King Cobra. Now, it might have been one of the elders who were closer to Cobra that attacked him, but without IMU's orders, it would seem unlikely that they would pull out the guns but then use some weird shadow arrow to kill King Cobra. IMU's reaction to Cobra's words would indicate that it was the one that attacked Cobra. This would mean that IMU's attack range is larger than you would expect, since IMU was sitting on an empty throne way on high, and then the throne is a distance away from King Cobra. Now, the arrows also seem to possess a lot of power, since they can do enough damage to Sabo to make him cough up blood. Even though he is carrying King Cobra, Sabo in theory should have that natural Logia intangibility. There is a chance that these arrows, even without Haki, let's say, can bypass that natural Logia intangibility, which doesn't necessarily mean that's Haki related. But things are even more funky, because even though these attacks have lead up panels where we see them moving as like these long shadows, the rest of the shadow isn't there when the arrows actually strike their opponents. When Cobra gets hit from the lower left hand side of his wheelchair, an odd thing kind of happens where like his wheelchair does not seem to be damaged, even though the direction the arrow is coming from, his wheelchair should be in the way of the arrow, which kind of makes it feel like the arrow phased through the wheelchair and then it hit King Cobra directly. When you look at Sabo's panel, when he got hit, the arrow seemingly just comes out of nowhere. It comes out of the void and it just strikes him. Even though there is that lead up, we don't see the long shadow tail when it strikes Sabo. It just hits him, that's it. So the attack seems very interesting, powerful, and I'm willing to bet has some unique properties that we're not aware of just yet. And I would say that the attack, even though I call it an arrow, I'm leaning more towards a demonic or a demon tail. Of course, I'm gonna have to do a reveal on that one, duh. Look out, because IMU related content on my channel is gonna be robust. I'll put it like that. After this, IMU does show jagged razor-sharp fangs and teeth, and it does bite down on the rock check fire attack Sabo does against it, snuffing out or erasing the attack completely. Maybe they may not be teeth at all, but more so the etching in the shadow itself that looks like teeth, and the shadow is just gap there, just air. It's hard to tell because the entire thing is still a shadowy mess. Then IMU starts to enlarge itself and then starts to descend down from the empty throne as the elders also transform. Now, I had a back and forth in my chat about this. I did during the stream. However, I'm convinced that what we see, that large shadow, was IMU transforming, and then the other 4 shadows around Sabo were the elders. You could argue that there's one between St. J. Garcia Saturn and Gandhi, who's very, very small, which is Sanji's dad. But we don't see him in that shot. But Sanji's dad was right next to St. J. Garcia Saturn. He wouldn't be all of a sudden transported up to where the throne was and descending. That doesn't really make any sense given his position. And we do see later on when Sabo was running with the shadows around him, we do see the 5 of them, and then there's that bigger one behind them all. It looks like IMU could be a shadow entity of some kind, since it's extremely active despite it still being a shaded silhouette figure. And what we're seeing for the most part, is its form, where it may have some unique twist here or there, like a face reveal. And that's really it, because the rest would still be shadow, in theory. And that is it when it comes for the character section of this chapter. Very, very robust for Monsieur IMU, which of course is a good thing for this chapter. Finally, we have the story progression components for this chapter. IMU talks, which I think is a good bit for story in of itself, honestly. But then Cobra notes to how IMU's name being familiar with the 20 kings who founded the world government. So IMU's name and the Void Century are now directly linked. And according to IMU, Queen Lily made a great mistake 800 years ago that scattered the poneglyphs all around the world. And this one mistake has led to scholars digging information about the Void Century, Clover and O'Hara, of course, or pirates using them to find treasure, like Roger, Kaido, Big Mom, the Strats, and so on and so forth. Right, yeah. So it looks like Queen Lily is even bigger than Goldie Roger. She is the one that set up the great search for the truth of the world itself for 800 years. IMU suspects that Lily betrayed the first 20, and this plays into the sentiment that the Gorosei had in chapter 908, where the elders, they call the Nefertari family traitors. And it looks like that had a double meaning. They did betray the first 20. And it's not until Cobra reveals the full name of Lily that it knows that it's been betrayed by her a long time ago. And then from there, it's just basically, hey, you know what? You're getting clapped, King Cobra, but in comes Sabo to try and save the day. But that, of course, fails and falls flat. Sabo has to retreat to try and save King Cobra, but King Cobra was already wheelchair bound before going to Reverie, and now getting skewered by IMU, knows his time is nigh. Tell Luffy, tell Vivi that they also bear the D, which ties into a Sabo ASL flashback that is brand new, where apparently Sabo, Ace, and Luffy did talk about the D. And healthy discussion for a few lads, it is what it is. And he recalls that one day they did call him Sa-D-Bo or Sad Bo. That is some devious activity. But ultimately, Sabo cannot save King Cobra. He gets skewered by an arrow, which explains what we saw in chapter 1060. One of the major candidates for the final in the story, IMU, marked up Sabo. There is an off chance again that it could have been a Gorosei, maybe, but I think it's more likely that's IMU rather than a Gorosei. I'll keep it a stack. But then we see that Wapol the entire time was peeping. He watched King Cobra get killed. The Gorosei, Imu, everything transformed. He watched the entire thing. And that is why in 1074 with Vivi, he was there, skittish, freaking out, like, yo, please, the scoop, hey, keep your voices down, they could be listening, ears everywhere. So yeah, Walpole, after seeing all that, is absolutely petrified. And the chapter also explains why later on, why we don't see Walpole with his wife, because he was just running for his life to try and escape the world government. And this chapter also explains why Shirahoshi in chapter 956 didn't know what happened to Vivi, because we see how after the last chapter, Fukaboshi and company, they decided to wait for their father, King Neptune, back at the Red Port, so they wanted to deal with any other celestial dragons trying to steal Shirahoshi. So now we know why Shirahoshi didn't know what happened to Vivi, which of course is a very smart move. This chapter also clarifies why Fujitora had bandages on his face in chapter 957 because of his infighting with Green Bull. It also clarifies why Vivi was with Walpole and Morgans, and on top of all of that, it does give us more insight as to why Imu had Vivi's picture in 908 in the first place. Imu had a theory, ultimately, that Lily betrayed them, but it wasn't too sure. Not until Cobra revealed that she had the D in her name. Once that was the case, it was, okay, immediately kill King Cobra and capture Vivi. Why? Because she's also a member of the D clan. It looks like Vivi was going to die. Even though we do have Khalifa say you be someone's pet, no. She's a D clan member, so it was a good chance that she was going to die if not for Walpole basically saving her. That is it when it comes to the story progression components for this chapter One Piece. Final thoughts. Overall, I would say this chapter was outstanding. The one thing I do think is odd, and it is kind of getting a little bit irksome, is the silhouette stuff. Yes, there are people that are candidates for final villain of the entire series. Will they actually be? We have to wait and see. Based on Dragon's words, the Holy Knights, when they make their move, that's when the real deal comes into play here. And even though we've seen the Gorosei transform, we haven't seen a single Holy Knight so far. We have to wait and see. But the whole point here is the silhouettes. It makes the whole Imu very confusing. Everything else was like, yo, keep on cooking. Keep the slow roast going. Because, man, the content for these chapters of the past few months has been great. And this chapter I thought was no different. This was actually very, 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 very damn good. I would say a rating of an 8.5 to 9 out of 10. I think that Imu making their move the way they did was very impactful. Cobra's death is going to play out, made a lot of sense. It does clarify prior bits that we've seen before in the story in a big way here, and it does kind of up the ante now on a lot of the, well, I mean, it was always high, but it raised even more so on the D clan and the Gorosei's moves moving forward, now that one of them, St. J. Garcia Saturn, is coming directly to Egghead Island. So we will see soon enough what the sauce is with the Gorosei via St. J. Garcia Saturn, and then how that will impact in the future Imu itself. This chapter is an 8.5 out of 10 in my book, and I'm gonna see you guys on the flip side.
See you. Bye bye.